Now the first year, Bearskin, his looks were passable. He was safe. He looked normal still. But by the second year, he began to look like a monster. His hair had grown. He had a very coarse beard. And his hair. And his nails had grown into claws. Because the strange man told him, while he wore the coat, he could not wash his body. He could not cut his nails for 7 years. And this was the deal. So Bearskin, by his second year, looked like a monster. And many people were afraid to go near him because he terrified them so much. But everywhere he went, he gave poor people money. And he asked them to pray for his soul and to pray that he would survive the 7 years. Now, by the 4th year, Bearskin was traveling and he came to an inn. And at this inn, the innkeeper saw him and was just so terrified. And of course, 4 years, no washing, terrified and he did not want to get near Bearskin. And he tried to refuse him, to tell him there was no place for him to stay. He refused him, tried to send him away. But Bearskin thrust his hand in his pockets, came out with a lot of gold. So the innkeeper told him, well, maybe you could stay in the stables, but I think you would scare the horses. Because the way you look, I think you'd scare the horses. So no stable for you. But then Bearskin pulled out more money. Cling, cling, cling. And the innkeeper, ooh, okay. Now you can stay in the outhouse. The outhouse, it's an outside toilet. And that's where Bearskin had to stay, in an outhouse. So while Bearskin was in the outhouse thinking about his life, he heard a loud lamenting, means loud crying. He heard a loud lamenting. And so Bearskin went outside to the house next door. He went to see what was wrong, and he opened the door. And there sat an old man crying and wringing his hands. And so, when Bearskin came in, the old man was terrified to see him. Yeah, because he saw this man thing. And so, Bearskin asked him, "What is your trouble?" And the old man told him how he had property. He had a lot of property, but it was dwindling away, slowly going down. His property was dwindling away, and soon he and his 3 daughters would have to starve. They would have no money. So Bearskin said, "Is this your only problem?" And he thrust his hands into the green coat and came out with enough money for the old man and his daughters to live very well all their lives. So the old man, he was so grateful. He said, "Oh, I cannot thank you. I cannot thank you. Please come with me," he said. And he showed Bearskin his 3 daughters. And he said, "Would you not marry one of my daughters? This is my way of saying thank you to you. I have no other way. But I am sure, although you look very frightening, when they hear what you have done for me, they will understand why I made this promise." So, the daughters came to see Bearskin. The eldest daughter looked at Bearskin and and she was so alarmed. By the way he looked, she was so alarmed that she screamed, "Gah!" and ran out the door. Very quickly. Gah! Gone. Yes. The second daughter looked at Bearskin from top to bottom. She said, "How could I marry such a monster? This is unbelievable, even if he was the richest man in the world. I could not marry him." And she walked away. The youngest daughter looked at Bearskin, and then she said to her father, "If this man was so kind to help you, then surely he is worthy. And Father, I trust your opinion. I can understand why you made such a promise to him, if he is such a kind man as you say." So the two decided to get married. Now during this time, Bearskin still had 3 more years of his journey. So he told the girl, "I must go away for 3 years." But he pulled off a ring from his finger, and he broke it in 2. And he wrote his name on one side. He wrote her name on the other half. And he gave her the half with his name. And he said, "Please look after this very carefully. I will return to you one day. Just please pray for me during these 3 years that nothing shall happen, and I shall return." So during the time that Bearskin went on his journey to give money and to help the poor, the youngest daughter dressed all in black, and every day she was very sad that her husband had gone away. But her two sisters teased her without mercy. They said to her, the oldest sister first said, she said, "You had better not make your husband angry, because bears like to growl." And the second sister said, "Bears like sweet things, so he will just eat you up." And the oldest daughter said again, "What kind of wedding will this be with such a monster? But then, bears dance very well." But the youngest daughter stayed silent and didn't say a word and waited for Bearskin.